Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Animal Kingdom. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, let's start off with the past. We have like Baz, Pope, and Julia kind of like all hanging out, and they're kind of really hitting it off. It's just like, there's this interesting stride that they were hitting where it's like, oh, everything was good. It's because it's like, right. I think Pope's picked up on a little bit of the Julia and Baz thing, but I don't think he really knew it went as far as it did. Like some of his mom, her whispering in his ear about oh, and they're leaving you out of it. But he started feeling like, oh no, my mom's full of crap. Like they're inviting me, Baz even saying like, yo, let's go to the movies. Like we're playing games. It's like, we're all hanging out. It's good. It's kosher. It's good. Because I think for the first time, probably in a long time, it did, like, they were in their stride. They were feeling good. It's like, right. Because Pope doesn't really have any friends outside of his family, and I guess that's almost like the way, the way Smurf has it set up. She wants that family to be insulated. I mean, it helps with their crimes and everything, but it's like you don't get attached to people. That the only people you can rely on, the only people you can talk to is family. You can't get close to anybody because you're always going to have to hide a part of who you are. I thought Julia and Baz were not the smartest idea to sneak off together, while your mom and your brother were still potentially in the house. At the very least, lock the door. But maybe it's one of those places that legitimately doesn't have locks on their doors, which is weird. But the apartment I lived in a couple years ago was one of those apartments that didn't have locks on their like the bedrooms, which is I'd never experienced that before. It was just weird. Regardless. But I'm like, they had the music playing loud, but I'm also like, you legitimately expect anyone to try and run and find you? But I knew Smurf was up to something the moment she's asking to make these bullets. And then she's like, yeah, I want you to make 100. And then she's like, all right, 50. He's like, I want to go to the movie. She's like, fine. And she just lets him go. And as he's leaving, she smiles because she wanted to make sure enough time passed. Because she's like, right, Julia and Baz, they're horny teenagers. They can't help but do something. Of course they're going to be all on top of each other. I'm around and they still can barely giving each other I want to fuck you eyes. They're giving each other those eyes, those looks. She's like, oh, they're so predictable. So she's like, right, all I have to do is set the stage. Hope is going to go looking for them, find them, and obviously it sets him off and he runs away. And it all works exactly the way she does. And what does she do? She just nitpick, because you're just like, oh, she's doing and getting exactly what she wanted. She wanted to cause drama. Pope's going to run off on his own. Julia's so concerned about him. It's like, right, this is my twin brother. We've been family. Pope he's a part of me. And it's like, for her, it's like, Baz, he's not even your brother. Shut up and instead of telling me what my brother's going to do. It's like, I think it's like, yeah, he's like a brother to Baz too, but. And the moment Baz is like, yo, Smurf, don't even tell me, what's what. And it's like, yeah, but she's like your sister. It's like, yeah, but we're not actually. But it's like, yeah, but we are essentially a family. And Baz is like, yeah, I could always just leave. She's like, yeah, but you're too old for the, foster care or whatever to take you in, which was kind of bullshit for you to kind of throw that in his face. And he just kind of smirks and leaves. By the time Julia gets back looking for Pope, Baz took off, and she's making it seem like, oh yeah, Baz took off for some reason. I have no idea why. And yeah, also Pope, you couldn't find him. He's sleeping in a bed. Oh, he told me everything. I was like, he didn't need to tell you anything. You already knew. You already suspected. That's why you created all this. You already had an idea. You found her panties in his Baz's sheets and stuff. So she already knew what's what. And now we kind of get into, once again, my theory. I was always like, why is it such an issue with you? I guess, there's layers to that to me, because it's like, oh, she feels like it's incestual, which I'm like, not only me, people on the internet always thought her relationship with Pope was always weird and inappropriate. When I first started watching this show, I've talked about it in the past, I was like, is there something going on between Pope and Smurf? Because it always seemed incestual. So for her to kind of be pissed at this relationship for being the incestual thing that she kind of views it as, I was like, that's ironic considering Pope is your actual son. Baz and Julia aren't. I mean, yes, it's that step siblings type of thing. I mean, not even step siblings because you're not even. Yeah, step siblings would be the more appropriate thing. But even then, it's like he's your foster brother. Like, there's no like familial connection in that. Like, you're not even like you grew up the past couple years to get 6 years together. But still, they were like friends and they were aware of each other outside of that, and then they were just around each other for the past 6 years. But what we really get into the nitty gritty of it. It's, yes, my thing has always been it's control for Smurf, but that's also plays into her larger theme of it of this is a family. And she's like, I'm not going to let a whole bunch of horny teens fuck that up. The fact of the matter, she's like, all it took was you guys being horny for each other to screw up and ruin it. And she's almost like, wait, what did you say? Like, once again, she always has this back and forth with her mom, but for her mom to say something horrendous, like, oh, like, she's the reason why the family's ruined, that she's kind of, it's like, oh, yeah, like, putting it all on her, like, oh, you're breaking up this family, you're ruining it. Like, oh, like, you think Baz really loves you? You think you got it all figured out because you made a teenage boy artist? Like, no. Like, if he could, he'd stick it in a Kleenex if it was wet. It's like, that's all you are, that diminishing anything between them. And that's the point. She wants to break up everything because it's like, right, once she's gotten all of it, it's like, oh, once you gotten this out of your system, you'll all be back under my control and I can puppeteer you to be what I want you to be. Like, she's doing all this once again for control. Like, they're slipping away from her, and she needs, like, it's like, right, this family is mine. Because she's like, remember when we lived in the apartment? You remember when we lived in the trailers? I've worked so hard to put this family together, and you're just going to up and ruin it. And it's just like, it's not the same thing. I mean, she might as well have been like, you're a whore ruining this family. Like, that's what she's almost making it seem like. Like, it's almost like you're ready, like, it feels like you were a couple sentences away from throwing the W word her way. Like, that's so hard. Like, once again, this Julia and Smurf thing, I knew it, like, last season, her as a little girl, like, just the little moments between her and Smurf and the way Smurf treated her in comparison to Andrew, it just, like, it broke my heart. Because we know what her story is. We know, and because the sad thing is, Smurf never made it right before Julia died. She never made it right. And that's the sad tragedy of it. No matter where, like, it just makes this story so much more gut-wrenching because you know where Julia is. Smurf never properly apologized. Maybe she felt regret, but even throughout the seasons 1 through 4, I never really felt her really fully be. I think there were inklings of it, but never anything like really epiphany level of like, oh yeah, like I really screwed up with my children. Like, because what was the whole, like, right, she found out she was dying, she wanted to go out her own way, even kind of putting her kids in a position where they have to kill her. It's like, kind of, she's always, and that's the sad thing. Her upbringing, her being in this situation where it's kind of a dog-eat-dog world, and, you either, it's kill or be killed, and so she became the way she did just to survive in this world, and it hardened her, and it made her spiteful, and made her angry, and made her manipulative. It turned her into who she is, and she was able to build a dynasty, but over but what did it cost her in the end? What did it cost her family? The price that she had to pay, they had to pay for her to kind of build this legacy, and she thought that's all that mattered, but like, not realizing like she broke her family in so many different ways. She wants to put it all on Julia. It's like, it's not on Julia. You are the reason why your family's broken the way it is, and you're not there to fix it. You didn't fix it when you had the chance with Julia. You didn't fix it with Jay, or, in her own twisted way, maybe she thought she was making it up. I don't know, but even then it was almost like, right, you just took Jay in because that's another person you could control. It's like, right, I couldn't get Julia to rein in. I couldn't rein her in, but I can rein Jay in. Like, it's like it's your second chance at reining in. I mean, once again, you set Pope, you got Mia to kill Baz, like, you got Pope to kill Catherine, and you got you were trying to put Darren in a position, or even Pope in a position that he could kill Adrian despite what he meant to Darren. It's just like, she's not afraid. Was never afraid to throw people under the bus, like sacrifice people, because as long as her family's okay, you're circumstantial at best. I don't care about anyone. Never cared about Catherine, only cared about Lena, because Lena was actually blood. But But even then, it's like, well, technically she wasn't because Baz wasn't your actual blood child. So it's, so that's a whole thing. So Lena was never even like yours to begin with, so it's a whole thing. It's just kind of a sad situation, and it like I said, just continues to be heartbreaking. I should also note, I meant to bring this up like the past, because I think I learned this about 2 weeks ago. I didn't know this, but I want to say, was it Layla George? She's the actress who plays Janine / Smurf. She did not know this. I mean, first and foremost, found out she was Australian like recently. I did not know that. I was like, oh, that's dope. But I also found out she's one of Vincent D'Onofrio's kids. I was like, what? I just randomly stumbled across that because I was looking her up. I don't think I've seen her. I like quickly skimmed her filmography. I'd have to look through it a little more extensively, but I don't know if I've seen her in. This might be the first thing I ever saw her in, because I didn't look her up. Because I think she was in season 4. Yeah, so I never looked her up then, but it was like this season I looked her up and I was like, yeah, she's one of Vincent D'Onofrio's kids. That's great. I was like, whoa, that's wild. I think because she's using her mom's surname. I always wonder about that with actors who have pretty famous parents. Do they do that to kind of not try and use their parents' last name? Nothing against actors who do use their parents' last name, but it just makes me wonder, that has to go through your mind of right, I want to kind of get by on my own merit, not my family's merit. I don't know if that's any reason for that, because her mom and her dad aren't together, because he has 2 other kids with someone else, I think, but maybe that's why she has her mom's surname, just because of that. Either way, once again, not my business, not trying to get into actors and celebrities business, but I just thought that was interesting, finding out she's one of D'Onofrio's kids. I was like, oh, that's cool. But on the subject of, I don't know if I've talked about this either, too. Right, when finding out she was Australian, I was like, oh, that's cool, because she's, doing an American accent. Also, the actor who plays Jay Finn, he's, I believe, if I remember, I've always looked it up, but I always forget. I want to say he's British. And I know Ben, the actor who plays Craig, I believe he's Australian as well, I believe. Not less he's I don't remember. I want to say he's British and Finn is British. He's Australian and Finn is British, if I remember correctly. I could be getting that backwards. Either way, just kind of wanted to toss that in there. Kind of make something a little more lighthearted to all this kind of depressing talk there. But circling into present day, let's start off with the Tommy situation. I love that he's like, yo, I got a job. And Darren's almost like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, it's a dentist office, my cousin's roommate or something like that works for this dentist or whatever. He has a whole bunch of coins that are probably worth $100 a pop. They're very specific coins. He's a collector or something. So we go in there and Darren's kind of no in the beginning, but he gave Tommy a shot. And I think it's also that thing of every one of them is looking for fun. I thought it was so interesting because he was like, yo, me and you, Darren, we could do this. I was like, oh, so you have Craig kind of branching out with Vince. Obviously, it's not a one-to-one. It's not related to thieving and stuff like that. But you have Pope doing his own thing at the skate park that he's making. And then also Jay's doing his whole thing with Penny. So there's all of that. Everyone's kind of obviously living their own lives, doing their own thing. But I was almost thinking is that just is this supposed to represent the Codys kind of getting spread further and further away from each other? But they bring in Jay for this job, and he's like, wait, you really want to do that? We just made 300 mil from that jewelry job, and you want to do this? He's like, yeah, but come on, don't you want to have fun? And there's almost a smirk across Jay's face, almost yeah, all right, let's have fun. A little smash and grab is fine. And I love that Tommy's such an amateur at this, that is is it Tommy or Tony? Either way, he's such an amateur at this. It's yeah, you're gonna leave your fingerprints over here? He's like, oh shit. They're like, no worry, gloves. He's like, yeah, sorry about that. He's like, no, don't need to apologize. I love that. It's just no, it's good. I figured you'd be nervous. And it's all right, go through the window, check and see the security. Oh man, that type, it sucks. All right, break the glass, snip the. All right, let's look for the coins. They find the coins, but then Tommy was like, no, it's got to be in this. It's no, we already got the coins. He's like, yeah, but it's got to be something. The guy comes back in time, knocks Tommy out, they knock him out, they bounce. Turns out what was in the box was some dentures. Yeah, they're expensive, but it's yeah, it's not what, it's right. When the professionals tell you what to do, you do it. And it's yeah, the growing pains. It's nah, you gotta learn. Because at first, they're patching up his wound, and they're just laughing about it. Because I love it. It's yeah, because I love Darren's perspective on it. He's like, right, Smurf had a network of people. We need to do that too. We need to kind of expand, almost like just makes me think of Leverage, how they went international. Obviously, you know, that's the ending of Leverage kind of set that up. And obviously, if you haven't seen Leverage Redemption, which if you're a fan of Leverage, you should be watching Leverage Redemption. It is coming back for a second season, but it's just more leverage. That's all you need. But what's interesting though is that, I think they're trying to branch out. It's like, right, we get people under our wing, we teach them the art of the trade, they become loyal to us, and, you know, it kind of like, yeah, we can have a larger network of this kind of people working for us and stuff like that, because their network for a long time has just been based off of Smurfs, and they haven't quite cracked making their own. I mean, that's why, like, Jay was looking for Penny. He wanted a lawyer to kind of be theirs. They wanted a cop that was kind of theirs, too. That super didn't work out last season, but, you know, so, but what was, but I love, like, because the last time they had the time to really bring in a newcomer, they as a whole, I guess, like, or at least more than one, was like, I guess Ren kind of got brought in last season. I mean, that was kind of against Craig's wishes. Angela to some extent, but it's like, yeah, Jay's the last one they really taught everything to, and he's been in the mix for a couple years, so being able to kind of impart this to someone else. And I love that Darren was like, yo, you remember this? And it's the stapler, and Jay was almost smiling like, oh man, taste me back. And it's like, yeah, like, all right. He's like, yo, give me some of that stuff that kind of numb the pain, and Darren's like, nah, you're good. And Jay's like, yeah, we want you to remember the pain of this because it's going to make you not do anything stupid to begin with next time. Because I even love that. It's like, yeah, good thing you're not in the system, because I was worried about it too. I'm like, isn't his blood all over that? It's like, yeah, but luckily, he's like, yeah, but what if I do get arrested? They're like, then don't get arrested, man. You know, because you don't want them to have access to your DNA and being able to tie you to that blood at that scene. So it's like, they staple him and everything, and they're just like having fun about it too. Just like, oh, I love it. Once again, it's like passing it on to the next generation of people like in this world. You know, I love that to some extent. It's like, yeah, teaching them everything you know, and it's just like bringing them into the fold. I just thought that was pretty dope. So, all the while that's happening, let's shift over to Craig and Ren, which you could tell Ren is not quite herself. She was agitated and trying to like put Nikki in his clothes and stuff. And the moment she kept wiping her nose, going and sniffing, I'm like, is she high right now? And I thought Craig was going to call her out, but he was like, no, everything's going to be okay. I think he was like, right, whatever you need to do to feel okay, because like, you know, it's very traumatic what happened, getting beat up the way she did, having Nick taken from her, not knowing like how that was going to play out, especially because that all came about because of her choices. So they go to the zoo together, because I was worried she was going to interpret him being like around, that she was going like, oh, like I didn't trust you along with Nick and now you don't trust me. Like I thought that was going to be what it was, but she was like, no, I was going to go to the zoo. Do you want to come along? Because it's like, right, I think she legitimately was scared to kind of be on her own after everything. And the moment they came back, what did she do? She like put the blinds down, and she was kind of worried and, you know, a little paranoid. And then they kind of have sex, and you're like, oh, well, not kind of, straight up have sex. And I thought, it was like, right, you're scared, and you're hurting, and you want to feel good. Couldn't help but notice, I was like, huh. And just letting you know where my brain works, because I'm like, I was like, is that tattoo of hers the actress, like, because I always wonder about that with actors and actresses, like, what tattoos they have are, like, real and which ones aren't. I'd assume all the ones Craig has are, because they look like they look faded, like he's had them for years, but maybe they just designed the tattoos to look like that, you know, like they've been weathered, like they've been there a while. But her, I don't know about, like, because I couldn't tell whether or not her tattoos are really her tattoos or not. Like, the reason why I'm like, I assume they're really her tattoos, because, like, you know, it's a weird thing to say, but it's like, yeah, like her, like the bottoms of her tattoo go into like her butt crack. Like, they meet at her butt crack, and I'm like, oh, that's gotta be awkward if that's not, like, oh, like, them have, because, like, why would they go through that extent, like, with an extensive tattoo like that, if they're just, like, just for, like, because she's been nude, like, what, a couple times in a show, so, like, it's not like you would have had many opportunities to see it, but maybe that's just, like, keeping with the continuity, because she was naked before, and they gave her that design, so they had to make sure they kept it, but, that's what I'm assuming, it's the actress's, like, tattoo. If not, does it matter? No, couldn't help but notice it, I mean, you know, because it's a really nice tattoo, because I think I remember her having the flowers on her back, once again, because she's been nude in the show a couple times, that actress, so, yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Like, I always think that when I see a character with tattoos, I'm always like, are those your tattoos or not? That's always what I'm curious about. But kind of, getting back on track here. There is a situation of her getting high, and I was like, oh, like, what's he going to do? Is he going to try and get her clean? She's like, yeah, I just need to clear my head. He's like, give me some, and you're like, oh, boy. I was thinking, like, okay, you're going to grab it, you're going to throw it down the toilet, or nope, he takes a bump. So it's like, right, and then we just see it. Next time we're Craig and Rin, they're doing like a slap contest with some people, and they're betting money on it, and they're both high. And, like, Rin's, like, high, like, it seems like Craig's, like, glazed over high. Like, and, like, he's almost, like, he's just kind of going to flow of things, but it seems like he's mixed up in the fun as well, and it's just like, you're just like, oh, this is bad. This is bad, bad, bad. And I wonder will Vince be there to kind of pull Craig out of this, but the sad thing is, he found himself with everything that he's stressed about, everything that went down, that I think it's just like, right, he just like wanted to take the edge off too, and now he's spiraling again, just like Ren is, and it's just like, they're being very, very, like she ended up stealing like those lottery tickets from that convenience store or whatever, and they just bailed out. Like, it's just reckless behavior. Like, that's always been an issue, like, especially when he's high and stuff, and same thing for Ren. And it's like, right, reckless behavior is what got them in the situation they were in last episode. It's gotten Craig in the situations he's gotten to in the past. And the moment he kind of snaps to, it's like, oh, who are you? It's like, oh, I'm Ginger. This is my house. Where's Ren? I don't know, out getting high. It's like, okay, do you know where my phone is? It's like, right. In that moment, the moment he's holding Nick, you can see a tear rolling in his eye, because he's like, dude, I tried so hard to be clean. I wanted to be in your life, and yeah, you're back in my life, but I don't want to be this person, like, irresponsible, not even knowing where I am, how the hell I got here. Your mom's off somewhere else getting high, like, we can't keep doing this shit over and over again. I wanted to be a better person, a better father for you, and here I am falling back in the same fucking routine. Like, I think him and Ren definitely need to take a long, hard look at where they are in themselves. And Craig is going to have to probably determine whether or not, like, what's going to happen. Once again, like, Ren kind of dictated so much before, and I don't know if the shoe's going to be on the other foot now, or is he going to try to, like, no, we need to be there, like, because this isn't just like one parent's better than another. We are both fucking up, and we both need to do better for, Nick, so I think it's like, no, we need to, like, do this together, like, whether that's us together or us separately, cohabitating as parents, and maybe not necessarily as a couple, because as a couple, maybe we are destructive to ourselves and each other, but maybe as co-parents, we can get our shit together and be there for Nick. So there's that element to it all. Then we get to the sweet spot. Everything with Pope figuring out, all right, something's not right. Dumping out all the cereal, checking the boxes, checking the cereal themselves to see if there's any bugs or anything. He goes through the surveillance cameras, and he's like, okay, like, gets to that point, the cereal's faced one way, hard cut to the next frame of the video, it's the other way. He takes surveillance of the out front. It's like, oh, the gate's open, the gate's closed. What the fuck is that? There's missing footage. Somebody's been in my house. Goldilocks has been sleeping in my bed type of situation. I think I made that analogy before, or at least tried to. I'm sure I butchered it last time. But he was like, new people in our life. Who's someone new that I've invited over recently? Hey, Taylor, I just saw your mom. He's like, my mom? He's like, yeah, she looks a lot like you. He's like, oh, yeah, she must be in town, boyfriend thing. He's like, okay, what'd your mom do? He's like, blah, 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 blah. And then he hits Taylor, and he's like, who is she? He's like, all right, she's a cop. You brought a cop. He's like, man, it's like, because now he's like, dude, I don't know, man. She put me in a rough position. It's like, is she a dirty cop? And it's like, no, she's not a dirty cop. She's just a cop that crosses lines. Which the argument could be like, well, that's a dirty cop. Well, that's a whole conversation. But it's like, she's willing to do whatever. But I'm like, why are you going so hard into paint? Because even later on, he was just asking just to kind of distract her, but even that is the big question. Why is she going so hard into paint when it comes to this Catherine's murder? Like, because it just seemed like she randomly, like, she got two files, like, she got a whole bunch of files, and she chose Catherine's case, and I'm like, but why, though? Why'd you like, part of me, like, I don't think she has any relation to Catherine, not unless we find out she actually does. I have no idea. But it has to be like, right, maybe it's something personal in her life, like she lost someone to crime, and so she's unwilling to go so far out there to get justice that she doesn't care about the consequences of it. I don't know, like, why she goes hard in the paint for this case, and she's going above, way, way above beyond for it. So Taylor meets up with her, and, you know, he's asking for money and everything. And obviously Pope, like, kind of lets out her transmission fluid because he got the home dude with the tow truck to follow her. And the guy was like, yo, I can't let you take my truck. It's like, no, I'm going to need you to follow somebody. He's like, can't you get one of your brothers to do it? He's like, I'm asking you to do it. It's like, and it's like, yeah, you don't say no to Pope. So that all went down. And got caught with her pants down, pants off, really. Literally came out the shower, got caught vulnerable, and lo and behold, it's like, it's just a little interesting inverse. It's like, yeah, you were in my home, so hey, now I'm someone in yours. It's like, yeah, sit down, and we're gonna have this talk. Like, you know, you're a cop, you're investigating. He's like, how much do you want? And she's like, what? How much money to get paid off? And she's like, I'm not in this for a minute. He's like, bullshit. Going as hard in the paint, pushing your, like, snitch as hard as you've been pushing him. Because that's why Taylor did what he did, because it's like she threatened to send him to jail. It's like, yo, she, like, leaned on him hard to get close to Pope. And he's like, why is that? Why are you doing that? You know, it's like, only people doing that are, like, cops. But he's also like, right, but I also know what a parasite you are, like cops are. Like, all you do is, like, once you smell again a taste of blood, you come back for more and more and more. And there's one way to deal with you. And she's like, oh, you're going to kill me, Pope? Like you did Kat? And it's like, and that made him pause. And she's like, go ahead. She's like, yeah, go ahead and kill me. It's already being uploaded. I've kept all my notes and everything uploaded. So even if you kill me, someone else is going to pick up where I left off. And it's like, yeah, go ahead. What's one more female death for, they can only fry you one time. And of course, Pope's not going to kill her because it's like, right. Well, I mean, they didn't cause it, but yeah, they had to clean up a dead cop situation last season. But also, it's like, right, he's kind of already screwed. So he ends up telling, Jay and Darren, it's like, yeah, she's been following me. How long? I have no idea. But she knows. What's she know? That I killed Kat. And they both like, wait, what? They didn't say anything. They just looked at him. He's like, I did it for Smurf. And it's like, fuck, dude. You know, so that really, like, you know, they're going to eventually have to fill Craig in because he continues to be the one constantly out of the loop about this shit. So, but it's like, yeah, you need to get here because, like, Pope taking the fall for this, because this isn't just like robbery, this is straight up murder. You got that, it could unravel everything. So how they handle it going from here, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they do, especially about the Thompson situation. Like, do you try and make her disappear? Do you find some dirt on her to discredit her? Do you get her fired? Like, that's, I guess, the easiest way, but I'm also like, yeah, but she's the type of person that without a badge, I'd be worried that she's one of those rogue cops of, like, handing your badge and just like, oh, I'm still going to do what I got to do. I don't know. Like I said, I'm so fascinated. It has to be a personal family thing that, like, Catherine's murder, like, maybe someone she cares about got murdered and no one really bothered looking into it. It's like, right, she was just forgotten, just another name, just another cold case, and now it's like, no, like, she deserves justice because maybe someone in her family didn't get justice, so maybe that's what's motivating her. You could only assume, but I'm so curious why she is going so hard about this whole Catherine situation and what this means for the Codys now that it's like, it's finally hit ahead where it's like, now Pope is aware of what this is all about, knowing that people are investigating this. So how do you handle this going forward? We'll ultimately have to wait and see. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.